Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Now, in September 2022, I was lucky enough to board a flight to Vietnam, where I'd be jumping in swamps, climbing up hills, and taking on one of the toughest challenges with an entire group of incredible, crazy, quirky, amazing, and inspiring individuals who I'm lucky enough to call my friends, as we all went over and took part in SAS Who Dares Wins. Now, with any kind of TV production, they are always constrained to fit the absolute best bits into a short window of time. So as you won't be surprised to hear, there is so much more to these individuals than meets the eye. So on this mini series of podcasts, you get to listen in as I catch up with this incredible group of people. We discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly as it comes to SAS Who Dares Wins, our favorite instructors, our biggest challenges, and also learn a little bit more about what drives them, what inspires them, and how this journey was for them. It's been so much fun reminiscing and catching up. So if you are sitting comfortably, let's buckle up for safety and get in there with today's episode. I'll see you on the other side.
Hey mate, how are you?
How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Good man. How was the little time away with the good lady?
Yeah, dude, Portugal was good. It's one of those things, like it's a different kind of heat to the heat we were in. So I constantly felt very, very tired and lethargic. But yeah, beach was good. How was the knee?
Oh, fucking hell, man. The knee's emotional, to say the least.
So you had surgery?
Yeah. So we got flown back. Basically went straight into hospital. I had another MRI. Did all the same stuff again, X-rays and all that sort of jazz. Confirmed the full rupture, and then we're sat in hospital for 2 days, and then went straight into surgery. And so they wrapped a whole bunch of stuff around it, managed to reconnect it, and now starts the rebuild. Now starts the rehab.
Yeah. What's the recovery time on it?
So they say to run completely and back to where you were, maybe looking at about 5 months. But you can walk and do shit a lot earlier than that. And with the greatest of respect, like, I haven't had injuries before, and this is probably a bit of an ego dickhead within me. They tend to base most rehabs on, you're gonna sound like such a dick, but you know what I mean? Like just like normal people. I know I'm a normal person, but like, if you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it properly. If you say do something every 17 minutes, I'll do it every 17 minutes. I'll wake up during the night and I'll do it every 17 minutes.
Of course.
So yeah, uber excited to get myself into that. Started doing some mirror box work today, and just working some of the left quad a little bit so I can get that sort of cross stimulation going. But how are your feet?
Mate, my feet now are actually okay after having been dry for a while. I mean, I saw the pictures of Grant's feet.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude, I don't understand how he wasn't medicaled for that. Like, unless he hit it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think his was a build-up of his was a form of rot, no doubt. And we're gonna, I've had a brief chat with Grant. I'm gonna have him on for a proper chat. I think in a day or two. He's traveling back at the minute, but he had a bit more of a longer game. What was it about yours? Because so for people that are unfamiliar, obviously they'll have seen the show by the time this comes out. But when the DS team saw it and stuff like that, and then you were called into medical, they said, yeah, you got jungle rot, and it was kind of like right down the middle of your foot. The whole thing was starting to open up.
Yeah.
Almost like a wound, like an axe type wound on the bottom of your foot.
Exactly.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
That's the interesting thing. So the first time I felt it, I didn't think much of it. It just felt like there were stones in my boot, on the left boot. And then the more I kept walking, it felt like something was splitting and splitting and splitting. And then the first time I showed it to DS Chris, he's like, okay, that doesn't look great, but it doesn't warrant, we don't need to see a doctor yet, but keep on top of it, try and keep it dry. And you know as well as I, there's no chance to try and keep dry, mate. Like
No.
even if it got to the point where, okay, I'm gonna have 20 minutes to take my socks or boots off. It just got to the point where taking the sock off became painful. So you're like,
Is that
this
what it
is
was? I wanted to ask you about that because, as everyone had their own kind of theories and a little bit of approaches. It was kind of like trying to shave a few minutes here, shave a few minutes there. Everyone was trying to adapt a bit of a procedure for how they were going to manage their downtime when we're in there. But
yeah.
you kind of stayed on the hard and fast rule because you were like ready to go. You were always kind of ready to go, and you didn't take your fucking boots off. I mean, like people moaned at you.
I know, mate, but it was because you can imagine with obviously that foot and how it was, and it kept getting worse. My
Yeah,
concern was, okay, yes, it takes everyone in here who doesn't have this problem five less minutes to get ready, get their
yeah,
socks on.
yeah,
For
yeah.
me, this one foot, because it's now, it's whatever, it's rotting and tearing at the bottom. It's painful to get the sock on. It's also a wet sock, so I'm pulling that skin as well. It's going to take me longer, and then I'm
Yeah.
going to get these guys in trouble. And the last thing I wanted was, okay, in my mind, I'm already a slight liability. The last thing I wanted to do was,
No, no,
okay,
no, 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 no.
I'm going to
Yeah.
become a liability to the team. So at least in my head, by having my boots on, I was
Mm.
never ever that guy ever. No matter
Yeah.
what happened, I was never going to be that guy. Um,
Yeah, they always say you'll do more for other people than you'll ever do for yourself, and there is something about that sort of social accountability when you're part of a team. Like you
yeah,
say, you don't want to be the one that's dragging anybody back.
that's
But I
let
wanted to
everyone
cycle
down.
back because like we had some great chats when we were over there, but we never really got into why you even wanted to come on the show. What was the big driver for you? Where did this all come from?
Dude, I mean, there's a combination of things that I suppose you can unpack. I mean, so it was actually my fiance that pushed me to come on the show, just because we've always been, we watch it and you get Biggie dog bollocks, and you're like, I can do that. Why is he moving so slowly? Really, really, really. So she's like, go on, then apply. And interestingly, at first I said whatever, I poo-pooed the idea. Then I went on, looked at the application, thought, okay, there's some in-depth stuff here that you're gonna have to unpack. And I suppose for
Because they
me,
were, sorry to interrupt, there were some fucking long applications. I mean, they
yeah,
were like, I'll bet there were over 10 pages worth, even
yeah,
just in a couple of them. And then you had to do the videos, and then you had to answer all the questions
all
again. And
the
then it was
questions.
psychologists, and it was
It
like, it
was a
was, it was
lot.
a big process.
It
Sorry.
was a big process. It wasn't something that you just applied and sent a picture for.
No, no.
You had to have a story. And I mean, for me, and I suppose it resonates with a lot of people. I got married super young. So first time I got married, I was 26. Wasn't of the character I currently am. Um, was not by any way what I would consider a good man. The woman in question was incredible, put up with a lot of things, but it got to the point where partying, drinking, doing nonsense just became a priority. And no matter how much someone tries to help you change, at least from my experience and what I've experienced I mean, I got divorced 3 years ago. Actually, was when it was finalized. So relatively recently. For me, no matter how hard she tried to, okay, you clearly understand you're on a self-destructive path here, the drinking, the drugs, the partying, whatever it might be. You don't actually see that, and you just feel someone nagging you.
Mm.
And it's only after, she's like, all right, we need to get divorced. I need to fix my life and move on. She was 9 years older at the time, wanted to have kids. You're obviously not going to be in the best state to have kids if you're pissed all the time and
Yeah.
partying all the time. So I completely understood where she was coming from. And it's only after that divorce came through where something
Was
resonated
the
in
was the
me.
part of you? Sorry to interrupt. Was the part of you that just kind of accepted that then? Because I wanted to just double click on that because you said I wasn't a good person. Do you genuinely think your moral compass was that you weren't a good person, or do you think you were a good person doing bad things?
Well, it's an interesting question, but I don't know if there's a difference. I think the only difference there, it's like, what do they say? The road to hell is paved with good
Hey,
intentions,
we're
right?
going to we can fall in love with our own bullshit, can't
There you go, exactly. So I mean, look, I don't think I was a bad person and purposely wanted to hurt an individual. I
we? Yeah.
just think it gets to a point where I guess you can't see the forest through the trees, and your priorities are
Yeah,
short term, and you want to enjoy everything now and party, and you don't realize the damage you're causing to another person.
yeah,
And for her, it was obviously as she was getting older, she's getting to the stage where she couldn't have children, and I'm a lead factor in this. She's staying to help me when she could have a family. And it's only after the divorce came through that I realized that people generally will only change when the pain of staying the same as they currently are is greater than the pain of changing.
100%.
And it was after she left that I'm like, okay, I'm 112 kilos. I'm a slob. I'm pretty much pissed all the time. Luckily, I'm very good at my job, where I probably wouldn't have one.
So you're a functioning addict or alcoholic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I was a functioning dependent on anything. On anything self destructive, I was dependent on it. And on anything healthy, I shunned. Even going to the gym became the lie. Yeah, I went to the gym and worked out. I pretty much walked into the gym, walked around the weights, walked round the treadmill, and then left, dude.
Yeah, but man, people. I mean, I want us to get into that because people seeing the show will be like, I mean, when I saw you first in the lobby, I was like, dude's a fucking weapon. That you, you had the look, you had, the facial hair, the body. I was
Yeah.
like, straight out of a Men's Health magazine or something was going on there. Yeah, you perked my interest. Certainly, there was like, I mean, it's either going to be a bromance or this dude's going to rip me to
I think
pieces.
for both of us,
One of
man.
the two.
For both of us. For both of us. Yeah, and then as I said, after we got divorced, funny enough, it was on my birthday. So the 15th of July when the paperwork came through, I think this was 2019. I need to become better. And I didn't know what that meant, better. I need to be better. I need to be a more impactful person. I need to mean what I say and say what I mean. If I give someone my word, it needs to mean something. Because, it gets to the point where even your friends start to be like, mate, you said you'd meet me at 2. It's
Yeah,
5. I haven't heard from you. What's
yeah,
going on? Like, you just become an absolute liability to everyone.
yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I suppose that was one of the largest motivation or motivating factors to actually go and do something like this. Because, I mean, you only actually find out what you're made of and, where your limits are when you test them. And no matter how hard you want to say, I'm going to test myself in the gym today. I'm going to test myself on this run. I'm going to push myself an extra 2 minutes. I'm sorry, unless someone's standing there with a boot at the back of your
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
shoulders or whatever, you're not really pushing yourself.
No,
Like you saw it on the
absolutely.
course when I think even you said, mate, I thought that was it for you when I threw up at the end of that mountain run.
Yeah, that was the one where I was like, "Fucking hell,
I
he's
thought
heaving up there," and then you just push through it.
Yeah, I thought that was the end. Like, and
Yeah.
obviously all of you helped. I remember you pouring water and looking after pretty much everyone up there. And I wouldn't have got through it without yourself.
Well,
And
I don't know. I think you were good. You had that self awareness that you were having a moment. You were just your body was rebelling from something, but you did it, man. You wrestled it together. I was just there, a part of the cheerleading squad. I think for you, brother.
thank you. But I mean, so that for me, and even after speaking to the DS after that, I finally calmed down because after that happened and I had done the abseil,
Hmm.
nothing bothered me anymore. I literally was at peace. Like, and it's something I said to Rudy when I was leaving. I'm like, that moment for me was actual evidence of when something gets that bad, it is true. Your heart and your mind will carry your limbs when your body is too weak. And once I had seen that actual visualization of the things that people say, you've got 10% left,
Yeah.
I was at peace. I'm like, that's what I came to learn.
It's like a physical purge, that as corny as it sounds, that vomiting was like that final bit of bullshit coming out of there and going, I'm fucking sick of myself. I'm done with that. You're
Yeah,
not at your fucking limit. Let's go.
there you go. Exactly. So I was at peace after that.
So you'd have met I know we won't get into who your partner is or anything like that, but you'd have met your partner obviously after transitioning out of that period of time after the divorce. How far through this kind of self realization, self awareness were you? Because, like I said, by the time you came on the course, you'd obviously turned a big corner in some capacity, not just physically, but you're a smart guy. You articulate yourself very well. I'm sure we all make this assumption of everybody. You're like, you seem like the sort of guy who really had your shit together. So you'd clearly already started this journey, and this was kind of going to be like an accelerator for us, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, And it's probably the first time I speak about it, to be honest, other than, in the psychiatry or the psychiatrist
Yeah.
interviews for the show. I generally don't think I had my shit together until maybe 8 months ago, because for the first year and a half, I was with my new partner. Despite me being on this journey of getting better, you still fall back into old habits.
Yeah,
You
you
learn
do.
to repeat
Yeah.
your mistakes. You're like, you know what? I've managed to do it 2 weeks. I deserve to go out and whatever. And fine, I suppose when you learn and you've got to the point where you're self aware and can control those things and you don't fall off the wagon, go for it.
Hmm.
Go for it. But for me, it was okay, I'm going to go out. You'd go out, come back at 4 o'clock in the morning, have no idea what's going on. You've got 100 missed calls. And I put my current fiance through hell for a good year and a half. And then it literally was the the penny dropped when came home 4 o'clock in the morning and she's like, I'm leaving, I'm done. And the next day, literally the next day, I vowed I'm not smoking again, I'm not drinking again. I'm gonna go to the gym. I found a picture of whoever it was, Chris Bumstead, put it on my desktop, a couple of other guys, like, give me 8 months
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm gonna be near this.
Oh man, I always say to people, because I'm a recovered addict as well. Addiction is it's a funny thing. I always say it's like a power source. It just depends what you apply it to. If it was business, we'd say you were driven. If you were an artist, we'd say you were just really creative. If you were, an actor, we'd say you're passionate. But when it comes to substances, we use the word addict. But like you say, so many addicts will cross addict often to something like fitness. You see that a lot in Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff like that, because it is, and I think anybody that's pretty successful in anything, whether that be business or life, they will have tendencies of addiction and or sort of intensity or overly focused mindset. Some people will call it ADHD, some will call it sociopathic or psychopathic. But if you can harness that and apply it to something and know that it's just a characteristic, and it sounds like that's kind of what you got to, where you're like, I realize I have this thing, rather than trying to push it down and deny it and say, I'm just going to stop doing that thing. Well, you need to replace it with something, because you're clearly a driven guy. And then you found this, you found this as an outlet, not just SAS Who Dares Wins, but you found that this physical capacity. How much of it, though, also sort of enacts itself in your professional life? You don't got to sort of share what you do and all that sort of stuff, but does that kind of tick that box as well? Do you get the same sense of sensation from achieving in your professional capacity, or do you need more of a release for it?
I mean, look, professionally, and I suppose it's like anything in life, when you've done it long enough, it's like, I'm sure the first time you're a pilot and you get to fly an A380, it's the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
And then after you've done New York, London a few times, you're like, again. So I mean, look, I trade bonds professionally for a hedge fund. I'm pretty good at my job. I enjoy it. It's obviously a lot of numbers, a lot of math. And you can imagine it's one of those things where after so long you have to become attuned to, well, your emotional state is important. So if I'm
Imagine
losing
emotional status is almost everything to do with
everything, exactly. If I'm losing money, I still need to be sharp. If I'm making money, I can't be clapping, because in 5 minutes I could be losing that money I'm making. And if I'm losing money and then I start to break down, I lose any opportunity of effectively recovering that and making it back. So it gets to a point where you reach this like emotional homeostasis where, for me, anything I look at, whether it's positive or negative, I internalize as baseline. There's
Yeah.
no yeah or whatever. So I don't get
Yeah.
that release. If I make a lot of money, I don't celebrate. If I lose a lot of money, I don't cry. So there's no
Yeah.
emotional release there. It's
And you almost
just
have to train yourself to do that, to be
to do
successful
that,
in what you
exactly.
do.
It's another
Yeah.
day at the office. Whereas in the gym, and when you push yourself physically, and there's only, I mean, I've never truly felt it like when we were on the course and we were getting beasted that day around the parade
On the
square, or
square.
running,
Yeah.
yeah, or running up the hill. I've never really felt it to that extent. But when you're in the gym and whatever, it's a new PR and you lift the weight and you manage to get it off your chest, or that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of, today I went one further and
Hmm.
I'm better than I was yesterday. There's no
Yeah.
better feeling. And I don't think you can find that professionally, maybe in relationships somewhere, I don't know. But for me, that release comes from fitness.
I think that sort of thing is an inside job. I always say to people that aspects of achievement or fulfillment has to be an inside job. Like, with the greatest respect to my wife, like, I've never and there's probably something wrong with me in this because I'm sure a lot of people have, and they'll probably think I'm weird saying this. I've never felt that absolute rapture as part of a relationship or as part of a friendship, to be fair. I've felt it fleetingly in like the jobs that I've done, or if I've been part of a particular incident or a rescue or something like that, but very fleeting. I think for me that has to come from something inside, something you've alluded to a few times there, both in like your professional capacity, the people that you've been with, and it's something I really wanted to ask you about, was this kind of the people that you put yourself around, because it's often a common correlation when we speak about habits and behaviors, and also like for the course, being around 20 strangers effectively. How much value do you place on the people that you put yourself around? Do you control for that in any way? Because to operate in a high performance environment like you do at work, how much of is that as a focus for you, and how did you feel being on a course with people that perhaps didn't share those, not better or worse than you, but like they just had different standards or different expectations of themselves?
I mean, it's a super interesting question because, I mean, at least professionally, where it's led to me is it's very isolated because from experience, if anything goes wrong professionally, I don't have the luxury of being able to point my finger and say it's his fault. So, or it's his fault, or that research person is an asshole. No, because ultimately it was my decision to
100%
follow any
accountability. Yeah.
advice or to do anything is my decision. So it's very isolating professionally, and I think that's obviously it's leaked into my personal and social life because I have very very small social circle. I tend, despite sometimes people say, okay, you're quite extroverted and you can chat to anyone. I'm relatively insular, and I like my own company. I mean,
Dude,
I
like
might be able
speaking to a mirror.
it's like, I think it's the same as you. I might be able to pretend and chat and speak to anyone, but it's one
Yeah.
of those things where you feel isolated, and even when there's a big group of people, you tend to withdraw.
Mm.
And I think what you'll see on the course is I gravitated to people who I could have very intelligent conversations with, and people that had life experience, such as yourself, such as Ross.
Mm.
Like, those were my go-tos. I gravitated to people who I felt similar to.
I struggle with that mediocrity, like you say, that fast food. And again, it's not specifically tattooed on myself. I'm no better or worse. I'm no better than anybody. Nobody's better than me. And you can be a student of everybody if you really want to learn. But I find it so hard to engage. I mean, I don't really watch the news. I don't engage in any of that level of mediocrity. Not because it's. I mean, it's very important to somebody. To somebody, it's their life. It's the most important thing that's going on with them. But it's like fast food, empty, hollow, shallow conversations, and it almost has a film of like like mold on it. This fucking sounds horrible. That probably sounds so offensive. I apologize, but it's like, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
What is, I don't care. I'm not interested. Not that I'm not interested in the person, but I'm like, I don't even think they're interested. I think, and it's the whole kind of reason I started the podcast is because I feel like we're losing the ability to have engaging, meaningful conversations that involve active listening, paraphrasing, really having a sincere interest in what the other person has to say, because we're getting so used to these fast food conversations. And I really struggle with it. Like you say, I always say I'm sociable, but I'm not social. And I always think I get those mixed up. Like, I could engage with anybody like yourself, put me in a group. Yeah, I'll get everybody's attention, or we'll go and do a thing, or I can lead a group, but I won't seek it out. I'm super happy being by myself all day, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, mate. And you know what? I don't know if it's a function of Instagram and social media and all the soundbite conversations. It's like most people I speak to on a daily basis, or my missus speaks to, and then comes and tells me stories about her day, which great. If she's telling me about her day, that's amazing and important. But if she's telling me about other people involved in her day, it usually involves TikTok videos, an Instagram post, something that was said on some online forum. I don't have any of that. I don't see any of that. I don't know what it is. So it's just exactly what you said. I don't like the window dressing conversations. I just
The window dressing conversation. I love that. What was your did you have a kind of favorite part of the course? Because we were involved in a bunch of different challenges from the first time we got there. We did the swims and then the beastings and a couple of the different. Was there anything that? So, I mean, for me, like the big surprise was Vietnam. Like, I didn't know we were going there. I was super jacked because it was a whole different. I was excited that it was something new. I didn't want to go back to do the same thing that a few courses have done. So that was cool for me. Was there any particular point for you?
There were two particular moments on the course that actually stand out to me, and they stand out to me because it was two people, it was myself and yourself, who, despite instruction to not do something, did it, but with the best interest of the people we were doing it for at heart. The first moment was we were running up the hill with no water on the way to the abseil.
Oh yeah,
And I got to the top of the hill, and remember, we were split into two sides and we had to run down and race each other.
I remember you. Yeah.
And I obviously lost my race because of my foot, and I don't even remember who I was running against. And when I got down to the bottom of the hill, I found Amelia, and she was broken. I think she was having a bit of a panic attack. And at that moment, despite, if you recall, the DS telling us, do not help
Oh, they
anyone.
were shouting at you. Yeah, they were telling you to leave her alone and get back
Yeah,
up there.
don't help anyone. I grabbed her by the hand and we walked back up the hill, holding hands. And I'm like, no matter what anyone does or shouts at, we're going to get to the top of the hill. We're going to do it again. We're probably going to get shouted and told to do it again. But you know what? We completed it. We did it as a team. You didn't leave me down there. I didn't leave you.
Hmm.
And that made me happy. There was a team spirit there. And
Yeah.
following on from that, the second moment was when everyone got to the top of the hill, and then we had to almost run towards where the abseiling was. I was at the back. Amelia might have been ahead of me a little bit. And again, DS had said to everyone, don't help anyone, etc. I remember her collapsing or having a bit of a panic attack. You actually stopped and helped her. Despite everything that was going on, do not help, don't do this, take your armband. You stopped and helped. And
Yeah.
that literally stays in my mind because look, it's one of those things where success has a million fathers and defeat is an orphan. So it was the same on the course where everyone was
Love
like,
that.
guys,
Yeah.
we're a team. We're a team. It's all of us together, one for all for one.
Yeah.
You only actually see how much of a team you are in a fucked up situation because
Yeah.
there was plenty of people that did not act as a team on that. There were plenty of people who cheated on that run. There's plenty of people that didn't want to stop or help Amelia. There's
Yeah.
plenty of people who the team ethos, we're all a team, only applied to them when it was beneficial to them.
I think it applied to them inside the camp sometimes. And
Yeah,
that's not me being like bitter or anything like that. But no, you're right. One of the big worrying ones for me was actually Stephen. You know, when we did that swim. I mean,
yes,
Stephen, you know, Rosie actually learned to swim for the course. She couldn't swim, bless her. And
incredible.
Steve, man alive, we had so he had his own Bergen, and I put my Bergen underneath him. And I forget who else dropped back. It might have been Levi. I can't remember. Maybe Levi or Josh.
Was that maybe? Yeah.
But yeah, he was. It might have been Zach. Yeah, but he was really, 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 really struggling. I thought I don't think Stephen could swim very well at all. I mean, I'm due to have him on for a bit of a chat, but yeah, I always say to people, you know, you can go faster alone and further together.
I
And
like that.
I thought about it when we were coming on the course because obviously a couple of friends, or sorry, my family that I'd shared the news of the show with, they were like, and my daughter as well, bless her. She was always like, "Oh, Daddy, do you think you're going to win? Do you think you're going to win?" And it wasn't like me trying to be self-defeatist, but I was like, baby, it's not about winning. Nobody wins the course. I said some people will pass the course, and hopefully I will pass. But you know, if we watch back on some of the other, shows together, there will be 3 people, or there'll be 4 people, or there'll be 2 people. So I would love to get all the way to the end with somebody because I think it will be a greater sense of achievement. It's a little bit like when you go on holiday with a partner or something like that. It's always nice to be able to, exactly what we're doing right now. Things mean more when you experience it with somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Because that's where you really build those strong bonds. But no,
Yes.
I love what you said there. Some of the things that we went through were really, really cool for me. I really, really enjoyed it. And there was such a diverse group of individuals there. Was there anybody that particularly surprised you, for better or for worse? I'm not going to point anybody out for like horrendous things or anything like that, but
Particularly surprised me. Look, I thought just based on, and I mean, it would be a standard assumption anywhere. I just thought based on size and stature, Rosie, who is tiny, and what did the DS call her? Raggedy Ann doll.
Raggedy Ann, bless her,
Like
yeah.
that bag was half her body weight. That Bergen,
Fucking hell, man, that was a
apologies.
lot of weight on her.
You know
Good
what I mean?
lord.
Half her body weight, and she was shuffling along in her own world when she woke up in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't even know if she knew she was in pain or if anything was going on. Like she generally, I just thought she was blank most of the time. But
Yeah.
I mean, fair play to her. That surprised me in terms of, I suppose, raw physical strength when someone.
I think she had an almost beautifully naive optimism about her, and that might sound slightly offensive, but like she's
No,
very
exactly. That's
young.
exactly it.
She's very young. I think she lives I think she obviously fights, and that's kind of predominantly what she does. So
Yeah,
she. I don't think she's tremendously worldly, but that's been like a secret superpower for her as well, because she has just such a beautiful innocence to her, whereas so many of us, older or younger, can kind of get messed up in your own prison of your own mind. But I thought that two people for me were Josh and Jamie. Do you know what, Jamie? I just thought, wow, to come on and do something like we're all doing, but with the bit. I mean, obviously Jamie's deaf and he uses hearing support, but he doesn't like to use it because he
no,
doesn't like to be singled out for it. So he just relies on lip reading all of the time. And I was like, Jesus, I couldn't can begin to comprehend, having to try and do that, carrying that additional burden. I found that fascinating, and he must just have colossal patience, because some
yeah,
people were being pretty damn condescending to him sometimes. You know, when
100%.
somebody says, "Oh, someone's deaf," and all they do is point harder and shout louder. I'm like, he's fucking deaf.
Yeah,
It's
exactly,
not, all you're doing now is being offensive and adding aggravated energy to this
exactly.
conversation. You're not helping him at all. So I think, yeah, Jamie certainly impressed me.
I mean, he's super accomplished. I mean, something I didn't know is he's actually captain of the English football team or the deaf English football team. I had no idea. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, what an accomplished guy.
Such a driven guy.
And humble, down to earth, got on with it, 100%, like
Yeah.
100%.
I think Daniel was kind of like a dark horse as well. I really like Daniel. I sort of had an opportunity to chat to him on the plane, and when I learned that he was a professional dancer, I thought, wow, you've had to overcome some serious challenges to get into a field like that. It must be incredibly competitive, and just the disciplines and the setbacks. What did you think about the DS?
I thought it was an interesting turn of events in terms of when we first saw the DS standing on
Oh
on that
yeah,
temple. That was an
yeah,
incredible moment with the
that was a
drone and
hell of a
everything.
moment. Yeah,
Um, it was obviously interesting because Remy wasn't there, the DS from Jordan.
mm.
I thought Chris, the new DS, incredible.
Really
Um,
well. Yeah,
yeah, I really liked him. I thought he was hard but fair. I thought Billy as chief instructor, it was a change. I liked that.
yeah.
Foxy, I don't think was involved as much as maybe previous seasons, but
Mhm.
still the funniest DS of all of
Yeah.
them.
He's got that dark humor, hasn't
Yeah, he's still the funniest DS of all. And Rudy, I mean, I didn't speak to him a lot other than when he was shouting at me when we were getting beasted and stuff
he?
like that. But despite all of the shouting, it always felt like the shouting came from a good place. So I've got nothing
I
bad.
think Rudy's a secret romantic. He's always the first one not to break character, but like he feels like he's always the first one to break character. Because secretly, I think he just wants to be a mate. Not like he needs friends, but
Yeah,
like I think he takes a lot from developing those connections with people. Even when I've seen him on previous shows and stuff like that, he's always the first one to like try and put an arm around somebody and
yeah,
try and give them that bit of support.
of
I
course.
think, yeah, Chris was a great addition to it. He's clearly a lot fresher at the operational mindset. So I think he was a little bit less Hollywood, you know what I mean, with the greatest respect
Yes.
to Rudy and stuff like that. But really brought an extra level of authenticity. I've always wanted to see Billy as the lead instructor, to be honest, because if you've read his book, he's by far the most highly ranked and decorated individual that's ever been on any of those shows. So he really has been there, done it, trained people professionally, properly. And I think he was one of the very few that was actually in the SAS, because a lot of the others were actually in the SBS.
SBS, yes.
Yeah, which is it's still far better than anything we could achieve in that, I'm sure. But yeah, I think Billy really added an extra level of authenticity, which I really like with it. Which one was your favorite challenge? We spoke about going down the waterfall and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the favorite challenge has to be, yeah, it's definitely going to be the waterfall just because it was visually spectacular. And obviously, coming through that water, I don't even remember the height that it was, but well over 100 meters, I
Well
think.
over 100 meters.
Yeah,
Well over
well
100
over
meters.
100 meters.
Yeah, it was.
That
We
was just an
found it on
incredible.
Google Maps on the way back on the flight, and it was something like 130 something, which
Imagine
for anybody's is like 50 floors. So if you think about some of the buildings in London,
in London, exactly,
big,
50
yeah,
stories. So, I mean,
yeah,
that I thought was incredible. I thought one of the first or the earlier challenges we did, which was walking between the two cranes. Um,
yeah.
I mean, look, to call a spade, I don't think it's necessarily how the special forces would
I
get.
think that's a shit challenge. And of course, I would say that having fallen on it. But I went up in it and they were like, oh, yeah, I bet you'll be good at this as a fireman. I was like, I don't think I will be. I think I'm going to be shit at this, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to bounce a lot in the middle and fall off.
And fall. Yeah. But also, it's like if you thought about it, that was definitely not the most efficient way from point A to point B. That's not how the special forces would move between those 2 points. It was almost a fear factor Hollywood challenge, which I thought,
that one was.
This is going to be the TV challenge, the one that all the viewers are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Fine. But yeah, that was cool. But yeah, the abseiling was my favorite.
Absolutely loved it, mate. So coming out of this now, my friend, what's your what do you think's been the biggest sort of change for you? Because you seem so goddamn good about it. You know, you seem so optimistic about it. Not that you shouldn't be, but I know I've been speaking to a few other people and they didn't feel like they managed to exercise all their demons, but you feel like you're in a really good place.
Look, I'm in a good place from a self-awareness perspective. As I said, I learned obviously, after I was sick and knowing what is capable. I've made some incredible relationships through the program, including yourself, who I'm definitely going to be in touch with. I spent.
We spoke about sort of like maybe an eco challenge or maybe just something a little bit tasty.
Yes, I've
when
actually
the show comes out,
quite a bit of research on it, and I'm putting together a spreadsheet which I will send to everyone on our chat.
Have a look at it.
That has the Red Bull race, it has the eco challenges, it has all the dates, it has cost breakdowns, it has who the previous sponsors were, and I will happily quarterback it in terms of getting the sponsors we need if we have to do New Zealand.
Because I think egotistically, with an opportunity like being on the show, we'll have some eyeballs and stuff. So raising some money for charity or something like that, to use the opportunity that we've been given, let's be honest, to use it for some good, I think would be really, really special. It'd just be amazing to be able to spend a bit of time.
And I mean, look, once you can put you are on SAS Who Dares Wins on the resume, I mean, it kind of makes getting onto eco race wherever Fiji probably a little bit easier than it would have been.
Yeah.
And if we're doing it for a great cause with the SAS Who Dares Wins team, and we're raising money for charity or for children in need,
writes itself, doesn't it?
Would make me happier than anything. So I'm going to stay on top of that. I'm going to harass particularly you, big man, and a few other guys.
Tap me
and
up.
we're going to put together a team. I mean, there's plenty of races in 2023. I've actually found a calendar that has all of the adventure races worldwide, month by month. What they are.
God, I fucking love you. Your head is just great, brother. I love where you're at.
So I'm going to send that around, and literally, whenever someone's bored, guys, adventure race November. There's one in Scotland. There's a commando race in Wales. It's 2 days long. Yeah, okay, I'll see you there. Let's go. So
beautiful, man. I love that. Well, look, thank you so much for taking time away from your lovely fiance and spending a bit of time catching up, my friend. I can't wait to meet up because we're having some sort of viewing or some sort of so that'll be a chance for us all to kind of get together and laugh and cry and high five and point fingers at each other. So hopefully the whole gang can make it. And then after that, no bullshit, man. I haven't said this to everybody, but obviously they'll hear it now. I would sincerely love to spend a bit more time with somebody like yourself. Not for any better or any worse. I just feel like I really enjoyed making a bit of connection with you. And you're the kind of guy that I know, like, we don't speak for 10 months. We could still meet up for a weekend and have an absolute blast.
Of course. And we'll be mates. 100%.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Dude, thank you so much for having me on the podcast, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you, my friend. Love you lot. See you soon. Firefighters Podcast is put together to develop, inspire, and hopefully even motivate those individuals who have chosen to serve our communities and be part of the first responder family. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield. If you have enjoyed today's episode and you want to see the podcast continuing, please head over to our Patreon page where you can support the ongoing efforts of the podcast. Please hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on whatever platform you're listening to. Please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.